Tonight, the Red Sea has closed. The dust of Egypt settles behind the people of Israel. But the wilderness ahead is far from silent.
They've walked through a miracle and stepped straight into a test. Bitter water, hungry bellies, questions rising like the desert heat.
And that's where we come in. I'm Ben, here with Rachel. Welcome to the Exodus Now, where we bring you God's movements as they happen.
And tonight we ask, what happens when freedom feels harder than slavery? What if the real challenge wasn't Pharaoh, but following God day by day?
Coming up, water turns bitter, hearts turn restless. Bread from heaven appears at dawn, and foreign priests walk into the camp with wisdom that may change everything.
Plus, exclusive reporting from Hezekiah and a special visit from a wilderness logistics expert helping us break down God's unusual supply chain.
But first, the question on every freed slave's mind. Did we escape Egypt just to die of thirst in the desert? Then Moses led Israel from the Red Sea, and they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water.
3 days, not 30, not 3 weeks, just 3 days. And already the people are unraveling.
Sources confirm the people have reached Mara, where there is water, but it is too bitter to drink. Tempers rise and voices escalate.
It's a spiritual irony. The same people who walked through parted waters now panic at the bitter ones. Victory is still fresh, but faith is already fading.
It raises the big question tonight. How long does gratitude last after deliverance?
And yet, once again, God responds. Moses cries out. A tree is shown, he throws it into the waters, and the bitter becomes sweet.
They are learning that miracles don't just happen at the Red Sea. They also happen when you have no choice but to keep walking.
Coming up, Hezekiah brings us first-hand reaction from those who drank at Mara, and we examine what this moment reveals about the human soul in survival mode.
Stay with us after the break. Provision, patience, and the purpose of desert delays. Welcome back to Exodus Now. With us tonight is Elhanan, wilderness logistics expert and a longtime scholar of desert theology. Elhanan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's an honor, though I must say that the terrain we are analyzing is more challenging than the maps can be able to suggest.
Let's go there. Mara, then Elim. No food, barely any water. But this wasn't just geography, was it? This was a test?
Absolutely. Exodus records that and says it clearly that he, which is God, he tested them. God isn't just feeding Israel, he is forming them through delay, discomfort, and even through the variety of the experiences.
And how does God respond when they fail those tests?
Grace first, he gives them grace, then instruction, then he prepares them for the next test.
Ellen White wrote in Patriarchs and Prophet, page 292, God was seeking to break their slavish spirit and teach them to trust. Was that the point all along?
Precisely. Slaves obey out of fear, but sons out of trust. God was shifting their identity, not just their geography.
And the provision, the manna, the quail, wasn't just a rescue.
It was a rhythm, 6 days of getting, 1 day of resting, and then enough for each day, never more. This wasn't just provision, but it was a test whether they would trust that God would provide, not whether the people would believe he would do it again tomorrow.
So the desert wasn't the punishment, it was the classroom?
Yes, it was. And every hunger was a curriculum, every drought a lesson in memory. They were learning that God was and who he was and who they were without him.
Hanan, thank you. Up next, we turn to the people's reaction. What happens when freedom feels like famine, and how much complaining is too much?
Hezekiah will join us from the edge of the Sinai wilderness. Stay with us. Our next story, the memory of meat and the murmuring of hearts.
The wilderness of sin, not sin as we define it today, but a region where the hunger began and the voices rose.
Let's be clear. This wasn't just physical hunger. This was emotional disorientation. The people weren't starving. They were nostalgic for the stability of slavery.
Social tensions escalated quickly. Let's take a look at today's Desert Wire tweet feed.
Harsh words, but familiar patterns. Miracles don't always lead to maturity.
The irony, at this very moment, God was preparing manna, literal bread from heaven, but complaint blinded them to provision.
Have we not done the same?
Still ahead, Hezekiah checks in with the reactions from Elim, where 12 springs offer momentary relief. And coming later, the mystery of manna and what it teaches about obedience.
You're watching Exodus now. When we return, God's bread, God's boundary, God's rest.
Tonight's data drop explores one of the most surprising moments in the Exodus journey, God's provision by portion. Let's take a closer look.
When they tried to hoard it, it rotted. Worms, stench, disobedience had a smell.
But on day 6, everything changed.
From a logistics standpoint, this was the original just-in-time supply chain. No storage warehouses, no weekly markets, just faith every morning.
This wasn't just nutrition. This was formation.
They were learning that survival wasn't based on control. It was based on trust. And the Sabbath? That wasn't a break. It was a test of obedience.
And today, we still wrestle with the same question. Can I trust that what God provides is enough and that I don't need to hustle every day to survive?
Or put another way, can I rest before I feel finished?
Coming up, Hezekiah heads to Rephidim where water returns under pressure and leadership is tested yet again.
Stay with us. You're watching Exodus now, where even bread becomes a lesson.
Just hours ago, the people here were ready to stone Moses. Why? No water, no relief, just thirst and accusation. They cried, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt? To kill us with thirst?" But let us talk about what this really was. Not just survival, but symbolism. Moses struck the rock once, and water gushed forth. Emotionally, this was a breaking point for Moses, but spiritually, it was a shadow of something greater to come, the source of life, and it comes from suffering. And the people drank. No wells, no rivers, no clouds, just provision from something solid, lifeless, until God spoke. Final thought from the field: provision will come, but often only when obedience comes first. Back to you in studio.
The rock was not the only thing cracked that day. Leadership, hearts, and expectations all broke open.
But sometimes God's supply doesn't arrive until we stop explaining the desert and start listening in it.
Rachel, Ben, for weeks, we've watched Moses lead this nation through sea, sand, and struggle. But today, something shifted. Jethro arrived at the edge of the camp with Zipporah and Moses' sons. He didn't bring fire or plagues, just perspective. Moses had been the sole judge, mediator, and counselor, sunrise to nightfall. One man, 1 million people, one burnout away from collapse. Jethro proposed something radical: delegation. This wasn't just efficiency, it was faith in the body. Moses had to trust that God could lead through others.
And what was Moses' response?
He listened. That alone is historic. The leader of a new nation, shaped by divine encounters, humbled by a Midianite priest. Final analysis: God may use fire in a bush or a father in law with practical wisdom. The lesson: listen when wisdom speaks, even from outside your tent. From refidim to strategy, Israel is learning that structure is also spiritual. Back to you.
A Midianite, a father-in-law, a change in how God's people operate.
Freedom isn't just about leaving something behind. It's learning how to live beyond yourself, sustainably, wisely, and with others. It's been a week in the wilderness, and the scrolls are lighting up. Let's start with a few of the most shared thoughts from across the camp.
The last question hits hard, but the tone is shifting, isn't it? From raw fear to deeper questions.
Absolutely. I just came from the fringe tents. People aren't just talking about what happened, they are asking what it means.
But we are also seeing praise where it's due.
Let's not forget the teacher's comments from this week's reflections. Here's the pulse from the scrolls.
And Ellen White puts it like this: they needed discipline and self control to become a nation. She doesn't call it punishment, she calls it preparation.
A people emerging, a pattern forming, a God who leads by fire and disciplines with dust.
When we come back, our final devotional reflections. What does all of this mean for us today?
And a reminder, the promised land is ahead, but the wilderness still has more to say.
We crossed a sea and walked straight into need. We've seen God part water, sweeten bitterness, and feed a nation by hand. But still, the real miracle might be this: He stayed.
And in every dry place, he asked one thing: will you trust me for today? Not for the future, not for the full plan, just for the Omer in front of you.
I've stood at the bitter waters. I've watched people beg, question, and doubt. But I've also seen what happens when they stop and listen. He provides. He shapes. He teaches.
Faith isn't proven when the sea opens. It's proven when the sky doesn't change and the ground is still dust. And we say, even here, I'll walk with you.
Next week, we follow the people to Mount Sinai, where thunder speaks and laws are carved in flame. But until then, remember,
May we trust the one who sends daily bread and walks with us until the next Sunday.